My mom was holding my son, and he was only like a few months old.
Yeah.
And like dude took like he was naked, and dude took a shit, as she was holding him, and like she wasn't even grossed out, and like she just like caught it with her hand. You can't remember when your dad like used to hold you like that, or at that age, and to see your dad doing it to your kids, like it just reminds you, like I'm sure that's exactly what he did for me when I was younger.
So Doug, you're the only one that has kids. Yeah. How does it look like, or how do you feel when your parents held your kids when they're younger?
So yeah, I was a good question, right? So like when I had my first child, and just the love, right? Because I remember my mom, my mom was holding my son, and he was only like a few months old.
Yeah.
And like dude took like he was naked, and dude took a shit, as she was holding him, and like she wasn't even grossed out, and like she just like caught it with her hand, like the motion, holding the baby and catching the poop with her hand, like Dang. Dude. And I was just like, man, the love, like
wow,
yeah, like dude, like even for me,
she got dirty.
Yeah, she got dirty, but like Nichika, like for me, I don't think I would have gone that far.
Why are we so emotionally drawn to that though?
Because I think we lacked that, like growing up, right?
Like the emotion.
Yeah, the emotional connection that we didn't have with our parents, like So then when you see videos like that one where people are showing emotions, then I think we all can relate to it because that's something that we wish we had, kind of like that dad you always wish you had.
Do you think that that has been ingrained in us, like because we live in America, or do you think we naturally want that? Because like sometimes I think about my dad and I'm like, I don't know if they got that from their parents, and do they want that? Is it just because we're in America and we want that? I tend to want to believe that naturally we want to have those
because relationships. Like it's almost like the Korean drama syndrome, right? Like there was a time when Hmong girls or girls in general will watch like a movie like The Notebook or like K-drama, and then they set the expectations so high that like now you have to live up to that height.
It has to look like that.
Yeah.
So so that brings me to the point, instead of you being a teenager and your mom holding your poop, right? Like what does it look like as a teenager?
Like what do you mean?
That scenario to still have that emotional connection, right?
Yeah.
So instead of your mom holding, your kid's poop, right, as a teenager, what should or what can it look like instead of it being that lovey-dovey, very emotional connection?
I think with my generation, right, and then my kids, I think my mom, she shows a lot more affection with my kids, so her grandkids, because I think in a way they're kind of making up for what they didn't do with us. You know what I mean?
It's easier to love them than to love us.
I'm sure you see it with your nieces and nephews, right?
Yeah.
When your parents are like super like lovey-dovey towards them, and
they still give them money every time.
And like hugs and kisses. And
but I think it's the expectations. Like they're more willing to show them love because they don't have all these expectations on the grandkids.
Yeah.
But for their own kids, they had like all these expectations. Right. But to answer Goo's question, I think like for me, like how does it look like for the parent that catches crap for me as a teenager is like just to be engaged, right? To be more engaged with me and maybe to guide me a little bit more, my dad was pretty hands off until it came to school, right?
Oh, like, he was pretty hands on with the schoolwork.
He was pretty hands off with like parenting.
Yep.
But not when it came to school. Like when it came to school, expectations were there. You had to do this, you had to do that. But then like with everything else, he was pretty hands off. He let me do what I needed to do. I think I just wanted it to be more engaging. Like maybe, and I didn't expect like to have deep conversations, and as a teenager, I probably wouldn't have anyways, but just to be engaged and to guide a little bit more.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like we have so much like expectations for our dads? Because I know that the media, like, watching movies, we grow up with like these lovey-dovey's, like, you know, the dad comes home from work and then he, you know, goes up to the son and gives him like a little knuckle like head thing, and they're playing toss and turn, you know.
For some dad, that's real, but for the majority, no.
right. You know,
I think some dads do that.
Yeah, they do.
I know some dads that are probably the best dads in the world that shame you, and they don't shame you, but they make you feel like you're the worst, right?
Yeah.
But for the majority of us,
Right.
it doesn't look like that. And what does it look like for the majority of us? Because we do have the expectation of, hey, we have this dad that will toss us up, right?
Right.
Even as a teenager,
Yeah.
you know, have all the rainbows and unicorn every day, you know, thrown at us. But like, what does that look like, you know?
See, I you know, I have expectations and the reality, right? So the expectations is always like the dad comes home from work, and then, you know, as soon as he gets in the door, hey kids, dad's home, and then everybody rushes to him and hugs him and then kisses on the foreheads and whatnot. But in reality, I think it's just dad comes home from work and he's just like, hey man, is there anything to eat? And then eats, and then just like I do, like for me, right? For example, what I do is, because I have kids, I have a 15-year-old, a 12, and a 7, and like by the time I get home, man, they're playing games, you know, and then the only one that really says hi to me is my daughter, because she's still at the age where dad is still like Superman.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm still like the dude, and so like we connect more. But like for the most part, kids at that age, they really don't want you messing with them anyways, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But thinking back, I feel like there were points where my dad did do that to a certain age, right?
When you were little, right?
Yeah, when I was little. I mean, there are times where I remember we'd be watching TV on the couch, and I would pretend to fall asleep just so he would carry me to my bed, right?
Yeah.
I still remember those times. I still remember when he comes home. He worked at Avis, right? The car rental place. And so he would drive whenever the cars come. He would get the car, clean it, drive it to the car wash, get it detailed, and come back, right?
Yep.
So he would always get to keep all the lost and found stuff.
Nice.
So like that would be like the present he would bring home to me. I remember from like maybe kindergarten to like about 10-ish, right? And like that would be like his thing, right? He would come home, he would have like a yo-yo or something weird, and he would give it to me, right? So like from, I think now that I think back, from like 5 to 10, he did those things, but all of a sudden it changed, right? Like I feel like once I became 10, all of a sudden he didn't know how to deal with that teenager kid now, or 12 or whatever age it was. Like he didn't know how to deal with that kid anymore.
Do you think there's some insecurity on both sides of how to deal with the teenager? And the teenager wanting the engagement but wanting their own space?
Yeah, I think there was probably some insecurities, and so like he didn't know how to deal with that, so he just defaulted to the stern dad, like the disciplined dad. The all I care about is school dad. Like I think he defaulted to that because like he didn't know how to. He was insecure. He didn't know, and like now that we've been educated, it's probably because he was modeled that, right? And his dad never did that for him because they were in Laos or in Thailand trying to run away.
Sure, but I think that's like, man, I think that's a lot of pressure though. Like on one guy, dude, he's got to worry about the mortgage.
Yeah.
He's got to worry about the cars, the car insurance, and all the bills.
Yeah.
And on top of that, like his wife, which is your mom.
Yeah.
And then, you know, other issues too. And then
sounds like your experience.
Yeah, but I'm saying, you know, then you know what I'm saying? So like as a dad, you have to compartmentalize, like, okay, what's more important now, right? I can't go through and deal with everybody's emotions and be like, you need a hug at 9 p.m. You need a kiss on the forehead. Yeah. Oh, I gotta do this with you. When it's, you know, I think at that point in time in life that you have to compartmentalize and be like, okay, what's more important, right? Education. Okay, I'll get on education. Mm-hmm. You know, whether it be street smarts, like, you know, what to do, what not to do when you're out and about. Yeah. We'll talk about that.
So what about you? Like, do you feel like your kids put expectations on you? Because like I know for sure I put expectations on my dad, right?
I think we all did.
Yeah, but for you, like, do you feel that pressure on you?
More so from a wife, but like not necessarily my kids. Because I mean, I do take the time to spend time with them. Mm-hmm. But like I said, it's not the every moment of the day I'm talking to them and I'm kissing them and whatnot. I tell them I love you, I love them, and this and that. But it's not like every freaking hour of the day, you know.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like I'm doing all right, but I've never had the conversation like, hey, do you feel like I'm doing good? Like, hey, grade me as a dad. Which maybe that's a good idea. Maybe I should do that. Hey, grade me as a dad, right? I want to get a grade.
Is there a part of you that you feel like you're enough, or that you want to be affirmed that you are enough as a dad from your parent, from your kids or your wife?
Think, affirmation. I think you don't. I guess people are different, right? Some people need to hear the words, but for me, I don't need to hear the words. Actions actually speak louder than words, and so like, I can tell, like I have like spidey senses where, as a dad, you can tell when your kids hate you.
Yeah.
And you can tell when your kids like you, right? Like if you're asking your kids questions and they're just going, oh, like
like
right.
one word answer.
Yeah, then you know that they're not comfortable around you. But yeah, I don't feel like that.
Okay, let me ask you this too. If they were to say something to you to affirm you, how would you feel then compared to them actually doing it?
I think I would use the actual words more like a in your face to my wife,
Okay. Right. So there's the proud and like you're
in your face.
Like this is what they told me. So you do have a sense of more pride.
Oh, absolutely. It's
when,
more pride,
when they say something over them doing something for you.
Right.
So you can't deny the fact that they shouldn't say something.
No, I'm not denying it. I'm just saying. I'm not denying it.
I want to kind of understand that from your dad perspective.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, it's always nice, dude. Like when you do a good job at work, you want your bosses
to be
acknowledged. You want them to say that, hey, good job, right?
Approved of.
Yeah. But, obviously you want to hear it, but then it's not the end all be all. It's not like, oh, I didn't hear it from you, so hands on my hip and I feel underappreciated. No, it's cool.
So going back to this clip, right? So this his daughter, right, is seeing him hold her daughter.
Yes.
And she says, I have never been told I love you. Do you think it would be meaningful if she got that with him holding her daughter in that, or do you feel like just seeing him hold her daughter is enough for her in that moment?
Ultimately, I would say hearing her dad say, hey, I love you.
Okay.
But that's a lot of like I said, expectations. Yeah, okay. Because how many of us can actually say that we've told our dads we love them, right? Yeah. Like truthfully, like, and honestly.
Yeah, I have
plenty of
times.
Hey man, you guys are soft. Yo.
No. but I think like how you're saying, what is our expectation and what is our responsibility?
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. What is our expectation? I think we shouldn't have this like dad that tosses us up every day, right?
Yeah.
Right. That we dream about and we think of, but what is our responsibility in this as well? What does that look like as? We have to own up because I think we have set up some false narratives of this perfect dad that the real world just doesn't equate to.
Yeah.
Right. What does that look like for us?
Man, it took me a long time to realize that my dad's not a terrible dad. He's just a faulty human, and I did put a lot of expectations on him, and that created a lot of resentment, right? It's like I watch a lot of Star Wars, and it reminds me of when Darth Vader comes and he's like, Luke, I'm your father.
Yeah.
And then Luke was like, no, right? And then when they were fighting, Darth Vader was like, hey, come join me, right? And he resented his dad, right? And like when the thing that made me change was when I realized that I was starting to be kind of like my dad, because like when as a kid, if you're hurt and you start having father issues, right, you start kind of if you don't heal from these wounds, right, you take them on and then it comes out in your other relationships, right? And so for me and my wife, I noticed I would complain a lot to her, and like whenever we would get into arguments, I can turn my feelings off. I could just be numb, like whatever.
Is that what your dad did?
But that was a role model of the
behavior.
behavior.
That was role model to me, right? And I realized that I was becoming like my dad.
Yeah.
And so when Luke is fighting his dad's like, join me. And he notices that he has some darkness in him. And then that's the point where he decided to go after his dad. So he ends up cutting off his dad's arm, right? And his dad's waiting there for him to kill his dad. But then while he's doing that, he realized that his dad is just this faulty man, right? And he was hoping for some good out of it. And of course, at the end, his dad kills the Darth Sith Lord that's trying to kill them all, right? And then dad dies off.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong though. There are some shitty dads out there too.
Oh, yeah.
There are some dads that deserve that title, right? Of being called like a shitty dad.
Yeah.
Like
to lie to you, manipulate, abuse.
Beat your ass for or like to beat you over like nothing. There are some drunk dads out there too that are pretty shitty. Some deadbeats.
Those are the dads that deserve all of our hate.
Yeah, right.
But like I think what I come to realize was that my dad wasn't.
He wasn't one of those, right?
Yeah, he wasn't one of those. But I think in my mind I made him that right that terrible dad, and it wasn't until later on that I had to think about it that he did do these things. He did like carry me when I was a kid, and like he did save all his money so I can get married. Yeah. Right. He did like all these other things, and it took me a pretty long time to figure those things out. So you're telling me you were pretty ungrateful of your dad? I was an ungrateful, spoiled brat. Yeah.
I think we just don't realize it as kids. I remember the story where my dad will always tell us all the time, or because there's 5 of us and we are born a year after another, so we're all a year apart. And he said he has every kid on a lap while he's eating and feeding us, and just having that picture, you're just like, these are memories that don't stick to us because we were young, right? So I think they did do the best that they can to raise us, and for what they know, I think they can be a little bit appreciated more because
I want to change the narrative, right? I want to paint this picture that Asian dads are pretty decent because like media, they always show Asian dads in all these movies as that freaking Mr. Miyagi type dude. Yeah. Just okay,
no emotion.
Yeah, no emotion, and it's just this dude that like sends his daughter off to get married and whatnot. But like they never like emphasize on like the good stuff that the dad does, like and unfortunately Asian men we're still projected as like docile and like weak in mainstream media. Yeah. And so that has something to do with it too. But like I definitely wanna redo this whole thing about Asian dads, right? That like they're legit. They're pretty cool, man.
But to be honest, like our dads, or at least my dad, he does have that, right? But I want that same energy towards the soft side where he actually does love me and he actually does support me, right, and he actually does do these things, like I want the same energy towards that side too, and not to just glorify the strict
like the tiger dads,
the tiger dads, not to just glorify that.
Because like I think the 3 of us, I have kids, right? And so like the whole being more like your dad and understanding, because like you said, that story about your dad holding all 5 of you guys while eating. Dude, I had to do that with my daughter, and dude, there's been times when I'll be in the shower and like I'm all like lathered up with soap and stuff, and the kid comes and knocks on the door like something real, like screaming like an emergency, and I had to like cut that. Yeah. Dude, I literally had to cut the water, just jump out there like thinking that something evil had, something bad happened. Yeah. Just because they're like shitan, and stuff like that, and you can never get to like eat because the moment you start eating, then it's, oh, Dad, I need this, I need that, and so I definitely understand and the sacrifices that you make for your kids. Yeah. But I think the media and the way dads are projected, I think we all kind of grew up like expecting like way too much, and I think it's unfair because even me being a father, right? So till this day, like even sometimes I feel like, since we're on the topic, I feel like Hmong girls are holding Hmong husbands to like a super high expectations. Like they watch these movies of these dads doing stuff, and they always go, "How come you don't do that with the kids?" Yeah. And you got to remember, it's just a movie. They're obviously gonna make it look really good. Yeah. Because when you do talk to like white dudes and stuff like that, they struggle with the same stuff that we do. Like, for some reason we think that like white folks have it like all put together, right? But they don't too. They have the same issues and struggles that we do. Yeah. But somewhere along the way, there's this narrative that like they've got it put together.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the grass is always greener on the other side. Looking within your household and looking with the people that you live with every day, it's not pretty, right? And I work with teenagers, and they're always like, we just want to live with y'all, man. You guys feel like it's like you guys are so fun and loving and all that. I'm like, trust me, I'm human. You don't want to live with me. You see me once every other day or whatnot, and you compare me to your parents who live with you every day, and so you only see one side of me. You don't see all of me. So understanding that the grass is not greener on the other side and being content and happy. And I think, of course, we want our parents to, look one way, but in reality, those aren't expectations that are real every day, because in life, I think every individual can experience good and bad days.
Yep.
And that affects us every day. But it's like, how do we make the most of that is what we all desire, because we want, going back to what you were saying, you do want to be affirmed as a dad that you are enough, even though, sometimes it doesn't look the way that they may feel like it, or you may feel like it, right? And so,
in a way, we're trying to make up for what we did last time. This is our second episode, our second take on the dads. And I just want everyone to understand that, like, it's not a fairy tale, right? It's not all butterflies and unicorns every time, with your relationship with your father. And, sometimes they are enough, right? They are enough sometimes, like, depending on what they do. So, for instance, your dad waking up every day, going to his shitty work, his shitty job just to put food on the table, that's already enough. That's his way of saying I love you, right? And it may not come out verbally, or it may not come out the same way that we think or we envision that from what we see in the movies. The subtle things they do make up for a lot of the lack of communication or verbal. So I don't know if that's good enough for you guys, but for me, that is good enough. That Asian dads are good enough.
Yeah, I think, just growing up, and I think my dad grew up with some crappy company jobs, working $6, $7 an hour.
I worked with your dad once.
Yeah, I did too.
And it sucked.
And just seeing him go through his everyday, life just to put food on the table, be the backbone of the family, like, and I've heard of his racist stories, that happen to him all the time, and they don't know how to defend themselves. It goes to show that, like, they have a lot of grit and determination to stabilize the family, and we tend to overlook that growing up, and for them just to make sure that the household is stabilized, that is enough.
Yeah, it takes some awareness on our part sometimes too. Like my dad, he'll call me to say, "Hey, Dao, are you dead yet?" Right? And then I'm like, "Dad, I'm fine, I'm good." And then he'll just say, "Okay, bye," and then hang up on me.
Right, but that's his way of checking in on you.
Yeah, right. And it takes some awareness to be like, "Oh shoot, that's my dad," just saying, "Oh shoot, I'm worried about my son."
Right.
Make sure he's not dead.
That's good. At least
that's
you're getting
good
phone
enough,
calls. Yeah,
right? And that's good enough. So,
yeah. So don't overlook what your fathers have done for you. Like, sometimes you gotta be aware that they are doing subtle things that you possibly could be overlooking.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode of The Bamboo Ceiling, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on iTunes. You can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at #TheBambooCeiling. Until next time, use your voice.